Yeah, you know who it is, and for those of you that don't, I'm Cytonius, the opposite with the phoniest! From Speak Geek Unlimited. And Hawkman needs to be black.
Wait.
With the recent announcement that actor Aldis Hodge will be taking on the role of Hawkman in the 2021 Black Adam film starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, people have had opinions.
You're black. Jesus, just stop, Ron. I'm terribly sorry. I don't know why I can't stop saying black. The word black.
With fans claiming they're hiring a black actor to play Hawkman, a character who's typically portrayed as a white man as pandering and race swapping, fan reactions have been interesting, especially if you consider the fact that historically, American superheroism has been dominated by a white patriarchal aesthetic. Within the past 3 or so decades, the push for diverse racial representation in the superhero film genre has created a trend of what some people consider disingenuous race changes that started in 1989 with Tim Burton's Batman, with the casting of Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent. Burton stated that he chose a black actor for Harvey Dent so that he could explore the dichotomy of Two-Face's black and white sense of justice.
That doesn't make sense.
As dumb as that sounds, over the past 15 or so years, Hollywood has fine-tuned the art of unnecessarily race-swapping white characters to black characters to add what many people feel is forced diversity. No other modern mass media subgenre has done this as much as the comic book and superhero film genre, with characters like Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, being portrayed by the late Michael Clark Duncan, or Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch, or Will Smith as Floyd Lawton, aka Deadshot, or Idris Elba as Heimdall, or the most famous and most successful being Samuel Jackson as Nicholas J. Fury. Just about every instance of race swapping in the superhero film genre has been mostly met with mixed to negative fan outrage and disapproval. But if there was one character who needs to be race swapped, it would be the DC Comics character, Hawkman. Created in 1940 by writer Gardner Fox and artist Dennis Neville, and first appearing in the anthology series Flash Comics issue number 1, Hawkman has one of the most confusing and convoluted continuities in all of comics. Hawkman, or Carter Hall, is an archaeologist who is the reincarnation of an Egyptian prince named Khufu. Hawkman, or Carter Hall, is also a police officer on the planet Thanagar who comes from a royal family. Hawkman, or Carter Hall, is also a Thanagarian prince who was sent to Earth and is eventually revealed to be stuck in a reincarnation cycle with Shire Hall, who is Hawkgirl, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. No matter how you spin it, Hawkman is a character whose origin and identity is deeply connected to Egyptian African history and mythology. So the question remains, why is Hawkman always portrayed as a white man? Well, Hawkman was created during a time in American history where racial diversity in comics wasn't the normal standard. During the pre-civil rights era of comics, superheroes were usually portrayed as all-American swashbuckling types with blue-collar, working-class civilian secret identities, who were always white men. The very thought of a black person being featured as a prominent character during the golden and silver age of comics was limited to characters like Lothar from the comic strip Mandrake the Magician and Ebony White from Will Eisner's comic The Spirit, with both of those characters having racially exaggerated character designs and stereotypical backstories. I'll talk about that in another video at another time. The main reason why Hawkman is portrayed as a white man and not as an Egyptian is clear and simple. It's racism. It's important to understand how much of a factor racism was in the portrayal of black characters during the golden and silver age of comics. And hell, I'll even argue that this is still a bit of an issue in comics.
To this day! To this day!
Racist editorial mandates kept black faces out of comics during this time, and most comic book retailers, especially the ones in the Deep South, where racial prejudice ran rampant, wouldn't even sell comics with black characters as the main protagonists. To fully understand why Hawkman, and to be honest, most superheroes should be black, we have to go back to the beginning of superhero history, and that history starts in Kemet, or as it's more commonly known, Egypt.
Cradle of fucking civilization.
Many people consider superheroes to be modern mythology, and when most people think of mythology, they typically think of Greek, Roman, and Nordic mythological deities. But the truth is that mythology started in Africa. In fact, the first traces of any form of mythological deities in history dates back to African civilizations like the Yoruba tribe or in Kemet. In Egyptian or Kemetic mythology, deities are characterized by having dominion over some sort of skill or having powers that are elemental. They're also characterized by having some type of totemic animalistic representation, such as Khepri, who was represented by the beetle and who was the god of the rising sun, or Bastet, who was represented as a cat and was the goddess of war and fertility. When we think of how superheroes are characterized, they're mostly defined by their powers, which are usually something elemental, like control over electricity, speed, heat, ice, and so on, but also by some type of totemic animalistic representation. For example, Batman, Spider-Man, Falcon, Nighthawk, and of course, Hawkman. If there's one thing most of these characters have in common, it's that they're indirectly or directly influenced by the Egyptian deity known as Heru, who's also known as Horus. The etymology of the word hero is incorrectly attributed to the Greek word heros, which was a word that roughly translates to demigod or brave servant. And most historians incorrectly state that the archetype of a hero or superhero comes from the epic Gilgamesh or Heracles, who's also known as Hercules. But the word and mythology of what would become a superhero is actually derived from Heru. Heru was the god of flight and bravery and was powered by the sun. Sound familiar? Heru also possessed the head of a falcon and the body of a man. Sound familiar? Heru also fought against his evil uncle Set. Sound familiar? So much of superhero culture owes its existence to African mythology, with characters like Moon Knight getting his powers from the Egyptian moon god Khonshu, or Dr. Fate getting his powers from an Egyptian tomb, and Hawkman's origin being directly tied to Egyptian history. We can even look at Thanagarian culture as an homage to Egypt, with things like nth metal being a Thanagarian equivalent to the metal element copper, which Egypt had plenty of during its dynastic period. We can also look at the fact that Carter Hall is the reincarnation of the Egyptian pharaoh Khufu. Any way you want to flip it, the fact remains, Hawkman needs to be black. Aldous Hodge won't be the first actor to portray Hawkman in live action. Hawkman has appeared in live action several times. Most notably, he was played by Canadian actor Michael Shanks in the TV series Smallville, and by German actor Falk Henschel in the CW series Legends of Tomorrow. And the one thing that they both had in common, not black. And while I know some people out there like these Rachel Dolezal versions of Hawkman, I'm sorry, that's not what the character is supposed to be. And I know there'll be people who will watch this and think, Cytonius, why you gotta make everything about race? And I understand. Conversations about racial representation in media can be a slippery slope. But a wise YouTuber, who is also the opposite of the phoniest, once said, heroism is ethnocentric. Every culture and race should have their own heroes and villains that represent them. But for some reason, when it comes to black superheroes and black representation in comics, we're either given the bare minimum or we're told to shut up and just be happy with what we've got. For years, superhero fans have been fed the lie that anyone can be a superhero, which is correct in theory, but not in practice. So will Hawkman being portrayed by a black actor shift the scales of representation? Probably not. But what I wanted to do with this video is create an avenue for the discussion about African mythology and its influence on superhero culture. So if you like this video, hell, even if you didn't like this video and want to see more from Speak Geek Unlimited, hit that subscribe button and remember to click the notification bell for more videos dropping every Monday. And I'm out. Peace.